Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and we're joined here tonight in the studio by Engineer Hassan Shaaban, the former Vice Chairman of the Farmers Syndicate and the Agricultural Development Expert. Engineer Shaaban, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me, appreciate it.
Engineer Shaaban, now, I mean, this is your area of expertise, and Egypt seems to really redraw a map, agricultural map, with a lot of expansion vertically and horizontally. And it is timely, you've mentioned that, discussing such a topic tonight. Now, before we get into the details, the specificities, or the specifications of the expansions and all the national mega agricultural projects, how timely is the agricultural sector's development nowadays, especially in light of many international movements and agreements Egypt is taking part of?
What's happening in Egypt actually is an agricultural revolution, actually. Invading the desert was always our dream. Not only that, because actually we are cultivating a lot of areas. Geographically, we can talk about the new delta, we can talk about the future of Egypt, and we can talk about Tushka, Owainat, and all this. Also, you have like 500,000 faddans in Sinai.
Yes.
All of this, in light of what's going on worldwide, politically and economically, we're going to have to draw a new agricultural map in Egypt. We always talk about the food gap, and we import a lot of our requirements from abroad, and due to the wars and the conflicts worldwide, we might have some difficulties in doing that. Also the hard currency and so forth. But I think as we are approaching a new era and developing very, very important areas. And when I'm talking about important areas, I'm referring especially to Sinai, and I'm referring to Tushka and Owainat. Because the political environment actually have produced the idea that I'm going to present to you right now. We always keep talking about the Cape Town, Alexandria highway that connects the north and the south and so forth. But in my humble opinion, I think a road across the continent from Safaga or Qusair all the way to Dakar across the continent could change a lot of things politically and economically. And it could change an area like Safaga or Qusair to a logistic area, because all the trade that comes from the Far East going to the closed countries of Africa, Chad, and all of these countries that do not have ports on the Mediterranean nor on the Red Sea, will use this road, because goods now are reaching these countries, whether from Mombasa in Kenya, or the goods cross the Suez Canal all the way to ports on the Mediterranean, in Libya or Algeria, all the way across the desert. But once the goods from the Far East comes to Safaga on the or the Qusair on the or Bernice, whatever, it will actually turn this area to a logistic, very important area to go to all these countries, about 7 countries in this particular area. Not only that, actually having the government now is very interested in Owainat and Tushka.
Yes.
I think if we have a program well studied, these areas could serve as an industrial zone for Africa. All these countries also have a problem. They have a problem in refrigeration, and cold storage. So they depend mainly on canned food. So if actually we could, grow the crops which is the raw material for the industrial zone to produce canned food, this will actually benefit Egypt very much. And we have to put into consideration the political situation in Africa now.
Yes.
Egypt just joined BRICS.
Yes.
And China and Russia are very interested in Africa as a continent. And I think selling the idea to our partners in BRICS to assist us and pave this road from the Red Sea all the way to Chad and so forth, all the way to Niger and Dahomey and Burkina Faso, all the way to Senegal. This actually, I think, will receive a lot of appreciation from countries like Russia and China and India, for instance. Yes. We have also to put in mind that these countries actually use a lot of salt. If we could encourage our industry in the salt products, this is an excellent market for the Egyptian salt in the heart of Africa.
Yes.
So I think we're going to have to really look into this closely, and once we draw our agricultural map, we might allocate certain areas for importing the goods to certain countries close by.
Yes. And so you think that maybe by joining BRICS, if they do help us or assist us financially, that would actually speed up having this sort of road and really paving the way for our to increase our agricultural exports?
I don't want to be greedy, but I think Russia and China will appreciate very much, especially China, will appreciate very much paving this road. It's similar to the Silk Road that China is promoting in Asia. So
yes.
I think this road, one way or another, will form another Silk Road, but to the heart of Africa, because now China is paying a lot of attention to Africa, and I think political environment in Africa, with the changes that might happen in Africa, and withdrawal of some superpowers from certain countries that used to belong or follow the superpowers in Europe, I think China will be ready to finance this adventure.
Yes. Engineer Shaaban, now you've mentioned a few of the national mega agricultural projects such as Tushka, Isawainet, the New Delta, the future of Egypt, but I want to focus on, or start off by focusing on Tushka. Now, Tushka was, the idea came about a couple of decades ago during the time of former President Hosni Mubarak. And everyone was so excited about it, and then it didn't meet up the expectations, live up to the expectations and aspirations of the Egyptians. A lot of people were citing a lot of obstacles and challenges. Infrastructure was one of them. And all of a sudden, a few years ago now, it's coming under the spotlight again. And you've mentioned that it holds one of the key future areas for the agricultural sector here in Egypt. You've even mentioned Safega and Qusair. Now, do you think they might have some of the challenges that Tushka used to face? And how do you explain all the sudden change and the difference between Tushka now as opposed to a couple of decades ago?
Let me put it this way. Once everybody started to criticize the Tushka project and the investment that was made at that time, actually, Tushka, the idea started with the possibility of Egypt being under threat of high floods and the the capabilities of the lake in front of the dam, our dam, is not big enough to accommodate such water. So it's a spillway. The Tushka is a spillway actually to get rid of the extra water.
Yes.
But in the light of we need every drop of water actually, the army actually dug a man-made channel like 26 kilometers to transfer the extra water from the lake all the way to suitable areas for agriculture. I mean, soil and water and the climate is the three elements that control the crops that we choose. So I think having the water available, this actually made Tushka again in the lead of the projects that actually we are concentrating on right now. The location of Toshka is very important. I would like to see a project. It could change a lot of things in our agricultural map. I would like to see man-made meadows in the area of Toshka actually, because actually the Egyptian, the Nubian Egyptians that live in Tushka actually have the expertise of raising cattle and so forth, and camels and so forth. And I think if we use the experience of countries like Australia, for instance, and they actually managed to have these great meadows actually. And I think if we grow these man-made meadows, we will be able to have a completely different formula for raising cattle in Egypt, and just having it as an item, in Egypt, not importing all our cattle from Africa and so forth. So I think the meadows only consume 1/4 of the regular water that regular plantations take. So you're saving water, but you are making creating a chance for the cattle to, you're growing a plant that that cattle could actually be fed on.
Yes. Well, we will be talking about the water situation later on, but you've mentioned a lot of developments that are taking place around the world, and obviously the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, it had a lot of repercussions on not just Africa, but the whole world, especially talking about grain exports and the sort. And talking about East Hawaiinet, about 186,000 acres, and it's really targeted we're targeting to plant wheat and raise very essential crops that would help us become self-sufficient. Now, how realistic and feasible is this, and how soon can that happen, and why didn't we think of developing the East Hawaiinet area much sooner?
Well, fortunately, the Nile Basin countries were positively affected by the global weather changes actually. And the rainfall rate in this area was actually increased. So in the last 5 or 6 years, we have to say that our flow of water from the River Nile was enough to grow additional crops in Tushka.
Yes.
You see, this encouraged us to go on. Hopefully, this extra water could, be sustainable. And I think joining the BRICS again will be a lead to resolve the problem between Egypt and Ethiopia, because Ethiopia is a member with us now, or we've just joined them, and Ethiopia is in. And I don't think it is politically acceptable that two partners in the BRICS might still have disputes about water. And I think the major powers or the major partners in the BRICS again could consider constructing additional engineering work in Ethiopia especially, because actually almost between 50 and 40% of the rainfall in Ethiopia, they don't use it, and it goes to the Gulf of Aden, and it just it erases you see, Ethiopia is on a plateau, so actually it erases the area from the the heart of Ethiopia to the shores of Gulf of Aden. So if we could cooperate, all of us, even financially, if Egypt actually go into part, we have to change the formula that we cooperate with the Nile Basin countries. We are all partners in this river, and any improvement in the water situation will be a win-win situation. So I think in the future we could have a satellite that can control, like a maestro, control all the water flow from all the dams and tributes of the rivers in the area. This will eliminate the human interference with controlling water, and it will be a fair situation to everybody. I think situation politically, actually, like what I've said on the BRICS, there is a road that could be possible to be paved to the heart, to lead to the heart of Africa. Also, I think hopefully the extra water that comes to Egypt will not be just seasonal. It will be
all year long.
Permanent. Yes.
Well, it's actually maybe a month or two ago, both Ethiopia and Egypt said that they would be able to reach some sort of an agreement regarding the Ethiopian Renaissance Dam within 4 months, and everybody got excited, but nobody really understood why 4 months. I mean, it's an issue that's been going on for over a decade now, and then all of a sudden they're saying, well, maybe in 4 months we're going to find an agreement. And they actually met quite recently, didn't really result in have any tangible results. But do you think that they were eyeing the BRICS, joining the BRICS as maybe becoming the BRICS would become a catalyst to find some sort of a reasonable agreement between both countries and Sudan, of course?
I think being in the BRICS will help the situation. And we have an invisible mutual friend who's actually getting us together, actually, with the United Arab Emirates, probably one of the major investors and developers in Ethiopia. And I think our brothers in the United Arab Emirates could play a major role in this respect.
Yes. Engineer Shaaban, now there's also the other project, the Future of Egypt project, which amounts for about 1.5 million fadans, and the new delta, 2 million fadans up north. Now, how, and we've been talking about these projects, especially the new delta one, for quite some time. When can we actually see, not just talking about it theoretically, but having real progress and feeling real impact and harvesting the fruit of these two projects? And really, if we're cultivating millions of fadans, then we need to sustain a life around it with schools, hospitals, I mean, the whole 9 yards.
Yes. Well, actually, these areas actually, we should have a good program and good plan for it. In my opinion, a location like the Muhammad Naguib location on close to the Natrun Valley, I think having a runway in this air base, and we could have some of our old planes, the C-130, that out of the, they're not functioning anymore. We could change them to flying refrigerators, and we could use all the products that comes out of the Muhammad Naguib to be exported to Europe. I think we're going to have to study the location of the new cultivated areas to the market. I mean, the relation between the area and the market. Definitely, the new Alamein is a good market, and you're going to have the backyard of Alamein as an agricultural basket for Alamein.
Yes.
Especially, this area is very famous in growing olive, and you could have olive oil,
Yes.
Industry, drying fruits and so forth, using solar energy in drying fruits. You're going to have to be choosy and choose the right crops and in the areas and the needs of the markets close to these areas. The new delta is close to Giza and
Yes.
governors and Manufaya and also all of them. So you're going to have to study the relationship between what are you going to grow and the markets. Do we need certain crops in addition to what these areas grow already, or we're going to have to be innovative and come up with new ideas and new crops. I would like to tell you something that could be a little bit strange. In England, they sell soil. They sell in sacks, actually, Yorkshire and Berkshire soil, which is a very rich soil, and they sell it at very expensive prices. And I think if we have one of the dredgers that used to work in the Suez Canal
Yes.
and dredging, and dredge in the High Dam Lake, in the entrance of the lake from the Sudan side, because a lot of sedimentation is taking place right now. You see, the river comes to a very quiet lake, and it's full of silt. All of this silt will settle in the mouth of the river, and you're going to have to dredge it to clear the way for the water to enter the lake. If you get all of this silt out and dry it, you could actually put it in sacks and use it in our agricultural program in the desert. You see, when you grow a tree, you don't require to change the nature of the whole area.
Yeah.
You just change the nature where you're going to grow the tree. So if every tree will take one Nile silt sack, this is quite enough, and this will actually, now we can call it really the new delta, because you're taking some of the mud that actually formed the delta to the new areas. You're going to have to think, outside the box, and I think the shores of the lake, of Lake Nasser, actually, could grow a lot of tropical crops. You could even have, I don't want to say that you could have in the far south, you could have even a safari, because a lot of the animals that actually left Egypt long time ago, you could actually create the chances to accommodate them again. You have a lot of ideas,
Yes.
actually, to develop the south. Awaynat, Tushka, south of Aswan, all the way to Halfa, all of this area, even all the way to Halayb and Shalatin, and all of this area is a very promising area. You just need a good program,
Yes.
you know, to connect what are you going to do with the market requirements. In my opinion, the new Delta is very suitable to grow medical and plants that could be used in perfume industries.
Yes.
And you could have a perfume industry and medical, you know,
Herbs.
so, yeah, right. So actually, and you're going to have, you know, of course, the villages and
Yes.
the industry next to the field where you produce the goods and next to the plants. So
Yes.
actually, it requires a lot of imagination. It requires some experience.
And a lot of financing as well.
Well, I think if we change the formula and just invite the Egyptian farmers to contribute like what happened in Suez Canal and have shares in a mega company that actually they can actually contribute to it. The farmers could own a urea plant that the farmers could actually, you know, go to the new areas and have new jobs because they will own shares in
Yes.
this mega company.
Well, with all these ideas and all these opportunities within the agricultural sector, it really begs the question of how much involvement do we need from the private sector to really enter and venture within all these national mega projects, and how can we encourage the private sector to take a bigger part within all these projects? And if that happens, is there a danger of like having some sort of monopoly or monopolization by private investors taking part or participating within such an integral sector?
Well, you can always control. You know, you have a raw fabric. You're planning everything. If you plan it right, you will actually protect the country from monopoly. So actually, you need to produce your own seeds. We still import the seeds that. So there is an open chance for seed industry. Also, I would like to give privileges to the investors.
Yes.
I have to attract them. Unfortunately, we had an investor who was very keen in investing in Egypt some time ago, and unfortunately he had to leave because the red tape was an obstacle. And I think we're going to have to reduce the amount of red tape to attract attention, you know, the attention of investors, because we really need, we have a lot of land. I mean, we have land.
Yes.
This is really our wealth, land in Egypt. It's not only for, you know, growing compounds and so forth, or having a golf course. You need to actually just attract, you know, investors to grow things.
Yes.
So, you know, a lot of ideas should be implemented. I think also if this road, the BRICS road, I call it a BRICS road,
Yes.
will go to Africa, I think we're going to have to join the crowd and have agricultural settlements using our youth to go. This is the manpower we're going to provide,
Yes.
and maybe we get the capital from our friends in the Gulf. So this is a chance for everybody, for the African countries to have investors, us to utilize our manpower and just be closer to our brothers in Africa. And it's a good chance for our brothers in the Gulf to invest their money and turn the term of food basket
Yes.
to a reality, actually.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, according to the Minister of Agriculture and Land Reclamation, Egypt is actually targeting self-sufficiency and also in 9 major harvests. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.